Hello everyone, this is Shifali and welcome to my channel Mast Musafir. In this video, I take you to India Gate. Right now I am sitting in the lawns of what we now call the Kartavya Path, which was previously known as the Raj Path. So why am I here? I really wanted to beat the winter blues, and so I decided to do what I love doing during the Delhi winters, which is basically Delhi Darshan, and I started with India Gate. That's because I feel that this is one monument that kinds of ties together this whole city, you know. We all have different fond memories associated with it. Even if we have not visited it, we have heard of it, that we have seen it in several movies and so on. Also, and one more thing, I like the symbolism of gates. Gates, they sort of mark a sort of transitioning phase, or they are sort of like a window of opportunity, or it's like you're going to walk through this gate, leave everything that's messy or that's old in the past, and then walk into this new era. And although technically it's the end of the year, but a new year is coming up, so maybe it's a new start. So gates are exciting, and such majestic gates are definitely, not to take away from the solemn nature of the monument, but that adds all the more purpose, that it stands for the sacrifice of soldiers and to that whole struggle, not just the soldiers who fought in the First World War, but also Indian soldiers and freedom fighters and national leaders and all the strugglers. And while our battles might not seem that big today, but we are all fighting some battles. So if you feel that there's a dampening of spirit, I think you can come here and you'll feel good and you'll feel uplifted. And if nothing else, you'll have a good time with the bhel puris and the ice creams and the cotton candies and the beautiful sights, and sometimes the crowd, sometimes the lack of crowd, and just the energy is magical. So this is the underpass, and I'm using this to cross the road, and that's when I make the switch over from the Kartavya Path towards the one that leads to India Gate. So come on in. I really liked how the place was planned, how these pictures and maps and pieces of information were put up to document the entire process, to make comparisons. How does it look now, how it looked back then, how was it built? And there finally we could see the India Gate. So I hope you can see me, and it's sort of slightly visible. So on my way to this place, I did give it a cursory Google search. We all know that it stands as a war memorial, but what else, right? So in the year 1921, they established its foundation stones. But the construction and everything, of course, took time, and it was in 1931 that it was unveiled. This was basically inaugurated to serve as a memorial for soldiers who lost their lives in the First World War, but also soldiers who lost their lives in the Third Anglo-Afghan War. So since then it has served a lot of purposes, and there were some tweaks and moderations that have been made in this place as well. Some changes have also occurred. Today, in the common Indian's memory, it is serving the ceremonial purpose on Republic Day, when the Prime Minister first comes here and lays the wreath. So let's get going and let's explore it fully. So at the top, the two circles mention the years of the First World War, and the inscription reads, "To the dead of the Indian armies who fell and are honoured." So after the 1971-72 Bangladesh Liberation War, we had placed Amar Jawan Jyoti in the center of India Gate. But why don't we see it here? So if you all remember from the Republic Day parades, what we saw was this black marble sort of a plinth here. On top of that was an inverted rifle covered with a soldier's helmet, and it was surrounded by about 4 eternal flames, but we see it missing right now. So where has that gone? I'll tell you soon. walking around the monument and just looking at its structure and design, one can't help but notice that it reminds us of something familiar. What I basically find is that there's a kind of parallel between these different national and international monuments, yeah? India Gate in Delhi, Gateway of India in Mumbai, Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and all of these have some sort of similarities. But this is not just something contemporary, it has roots in ancient traditions. So these arches trace their history to ancient Roman triumphal arches, which had a typical design and would celebrate victory in wars or commemorate the lives of martyrs. What I also figured out was that there is a twin to this monument, and that was also built by Lutyens, the architect of New Delhi, Edward Lutyens. So this is the Arch of Remembrance in Leicester, England, unveiled in 1925, and the basic design is similar to that of India Gate. Do you see the spot behind me? So my earliest childhood memories of this place are basically coming here for Chhat Puja. It used to be really chilly winters, and we used to come here for the morning puja and the evening puja. And the morning puja used to be really early. We had to be here around 4-5 am, and imagine in that chilly winters, as part of the puja, the ladies and some men also had to dip in this chilly cold water over here. This entire perimeter of this area used to be covered with people. Everybody would come here in colorful, bright chakmak saris and light diyas and make soups. I think we call it soup in Bihar. That is sort of a netted or woven cane basket in which we put our offerings for worship. It's interesting that how one monument can have so many different associations. You just need to dive deep in, and then all these connections will keep on falling. It was a good decision to come here. Just look at the use of symbols here. There is an underlying message. Look at these ferocious lion faces here. The expression of rage almost, or aggression, I would say, that we are peace loving, but don't dare mess with us. When it comes to, say, saving the country or taking important decisions or protecting, then we are a force to reckon with. Right of this walkway, surrounded by plain grounds and these trees, and then that sound of the water. So I hope you can see the canopy with the statue behind me. So it has a history too. Interestingly, one Indian ruler, a princely state ruler called the Maharaja of Kapurthala, suggested that we should place the statue of King George V, the reigning emperor of India at that time, but we don't see that here now. During the national struggle, that monument and that statue got a lot of opposition, and they would often destroy it. So they had to really remove it from here. And where did they take it? They took it to the Coronation Park. Now what's that? Maybe I'll take you there. And very recently, in the year 2022, we placed Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's statue over here. And it is saluting, and it is right opposite to the India Gate, as he was associated with INA, with the germ and the birth of INA, Indian National Army, and the struggle. And he was the one who used to really mobilize and gather martial and defense support for the nation, because he believed that if we have to get independence, we'll have to strengthen our forces, our military. While India Gate was known as the All India War Memorial in the erstwhile years, today we have something called as the National War Memorial. It's a new monument that has been made very close to and near the India Gate that's right here behind me. Alright, so we have entered the National War Memorial, and this new war memorial over here celebrates those soldiers who laid down their lives, particularly since the independence of the country in 1947. Going down. The Amar Jawan Jyoti that you see behind me, earlier it was placed under the India Gate, and it was placed there in 1972 post the Bangladesh Liberation War. But in very recent years, when this National War Memorial was made, it was transferred from there to this place. And also one more thing to notice is that it's never left unattended. You'll always see a soldier paying his respects and guarding the eternal flame of our soldiers and their sacrifice. Last interesting bit, I really like that how this pillar, which has the flame at its bottom, at its foundation, is topped by the national emblem. I feel that we can see it as how this national emblem, the state, the Indian state, and in all its glory can only be maintained by the work of thousands and millions of soldiers who are working day and night to keep the foundation strong. With the Republic Day coming, and not just because of that, in general also, it's good to come to these places. It's good to remind us that the freedom and the independence and the liberty that we take for granted was not easily gained. It was not bequeathed to us. It was wrested from the hands of tyranny. I know it sounds dramatic, but was it anything less? People worked hard for it. They gave up their lives. It was their life mission, agenda. And it's not easy. It's not easy.
The memorial is constructed to honor the brave soldiers of India who have laid down their lives in service of the nation since independence.
I find this grand, majestic tree very important here. It's like, it's standing for the year-long tradition of history, of just the magnificence of the sacrifice that was made. This tree is lending an aura to this place which I feel it rightly deserves. And now it was time to exit the memorial. And now we were headed towards the last spot for the day, the Param Yodha Sthal. So the place had a very solemn and peaceful atmosphere. It was a beautiful garden with the statues and busts of martyrs, and the paths were lined with beautiful roses. And that actually reminded me of this poem by Makhanlal Chaturvedi called Pushp Ki Abhilasha. चाह नहीं सम्राटों के शव पर हे हरि डाला जाऊं, चाह नहीं देवों के सिर पर चढ़ूं, भाग्य पर इठलाऊं, मुझे तोड़ लेना वनमाली, उस पथ में देना तुम फेंक, मातृभूमि पर शीश चढ़ाने, जिस पथ जावे वीर अनेक. Lastly, I also came across the statue of Captain Vikram Batra, on whom recently a movie was also made titled Sher Shah, starring Siddharth Malhotra. It was inspired from Captain Vikram Batra's life, his service to the army, and his supreme sacrifice. It was time to leave now, and look, they turned on the fountains. I truly enjoyed myself at India Gate. It had left me feeling happy, calm, energized, nostalgic, and also patriotic. That's my chosen spot. Alright, so that was all for today. Hope you enjoyed coming along with me on this day out in Delhi. And I hope you enjoyed the sights. I hope you found it a bit informative. And yeah, see you soon in my next video.